Hello, everybody. We are having a podcast interview for SHARP. And SHARP is the network community for severe asthma. And today we will interview Rafael Alfonso. He is the Global Evidence and Value Lead for Respiratory Biologics. And the questions will be asked by Fabienne Joan, who is the National Coordinator for the Swiss Registry in SHARP, and she works in the Basel-Land Kantonsspital. And if I may also introduce myself, I'm Jacques Buys. I'm working for Teva Respiratory, and I'm the medical lead for respiratory and drug repurposing. I would like to give the first question now to Rafael. And we really want to know your opinion. What are the advantages of real-life data, and why does the pharma industry need collaboration like SHARP?
Well, Jax, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm delighted to be here. I've been working with real-world data probably for the last 20 years, way before I joined the pharmaceutical industry. I think that we have to start by clearly defining what is real-world data. And I particularly like the definition of the International Society for Pharmacoeconomics and Outcomes Research that says real-world data is any data collected outside of a controlled study. So let that sink for a minute. What that means is basically the data from your phone, your computer, your car, any data could be used effectively to help us understand how people make decisions, what kind of behaviors they do, what locations they may be going to, and that can help us to have a much better picture about their health. If I have a choice between your medical record and your phone, I will choose your phone if I have to make a prediction about your health, right? But if we focus only on health, obviously, the information systems are giving us a great opportunity now with the search of electronic medical records, with the search of pharmacy records. All of this information is usually digitized now. It gives us the opportunity to put them into large data sets and to take those data sets and do research. But we have to understand in a very clear way that the initial purpose of collecting that data was not to do research. And that's an important limitation in that sense. Obviously, we may see that there is more missingness, that there could be certain patterns in terms of the quality of the data, and that requires standardization, that requires to have someone with expertise that can look at the information and make choices about whether or not a particular outlier is a real data point or not. And that's where collaborations like SHARP are critical, because it brings together the expertise of multiple different experts and stakeholders. The opportunity to bring the clinicians, to bring the data scientists, to bring the statisticians, the epidemiologists, the decision makers, the industry, and so on into a single collaborative around the data to make decisions on how we will use that data and how to make it standard. I think it's critical. And that's, I think, is the value of having SHARP and being part of that. In that sense, I think that obviously fostering this type of registries is critical because it can help us to drive that conversation forward.
Thank you very much. And if you look at the midterm and long-term future, what kind of data we have to collect to make this registry even more valuable?
It will depend on the type of questions we have, right? The way I think about it is if we really want to prevent the condition, for example, in a condition such as asthma, we know that there are triggers that are in the environment, for example, right? As I was saying before, if we're able to have information about your location, and we have weather patterns, for example, and we can cross that information and we can anticipate when a particular weather or condition may affect respiratory diseases, and we know that our patients may be located in those areas, we may ask them please avoid certain areas, right? So we can prevent events like that. That will be the future, I think. Currently, we're not there yet. I think that there is a lot of opportunities in that sense. We're more on the prevention, on the side of the treatment, trying to figure out how we can better utilize the treatments on patients with certain levels of higher severity, particularly those that are going to the hospital. So we use electronic medical records for that, to try to mine those records and try to determine specific patterns and see, for example, whether there is a higher probability of a patient being eligible for a treatment that they would benefit, or being eligible for an intervention of other kind. So I think that we're progressing. It depends on what the question is and where do we want to focus. Is it more public health? Is it more about a specific treatment? Is it about more personalized therapy or optimization of resources? Healthcare systems are very interested in optimizing their resources.
So, in summary, with SHARP and initiatives like SHARP, we can bring together different views on the same disease and answer questions and help people from different views, as you said before, from pharmaceutical therapeutics, from public health perspective, from environmental perspectives. A very interesting focus this initiative has, right?
Absolutely. And it goes beyond because it's multi-country. So that's another unique aspect of SHARP. When we're looking into this type of data, it's obviously collected within a specific healthcare system. So it's reflective of that. When we're able to pool data across multiple healthcare systems, so we have the opportunity to get strength by numbers, and also even to capture differences between those healthcare systems and make recommendations that may be used by decision makers or policymakers in terms of how that differs and whether or not patients in certain countries may be having, for example, better outcomes based on the patterns of use or the way they diagnose or programs that they implement regarding a particular condition.
Was it easy to engage with SHARP from the industry, or do we come from different worlds?
In our case, was very easy because we have the same interest, right? We're very familiar with real-world data. We work with that type of information for our internal purposes and to drive decisions regarding our clinical programs. So understanding that and understanding the opportunities that data collected across multiple countries through a consortium like SHARP, and having the opportunity to bring together the expertise of clinicians, epidemiologists, biostatisticians, and even patients within the same disease area, I think it's critical. And we saw a big opportunity to do that. And the conversation, I think, has been in that sense. What can we do with this data to make better for the patients?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And I'm really very happy that you elaborate on this issue, because it's very important. Because I think we can only solve the issue with severe asthma if we collaborate. If we collaborate, scientists, clinicians, pharmaceutical industry, patients, of course. And do you think that the pharmaceutical industry has the same standing as the other stakeholders in SHARP?
I think that we may have different questions or different perspectives regarding analysis that could be done with the data, right? Any manufacturer, any industry is interested in how their product is used in real life. This is not only about medicines, it's about any technology, really. So there is obviously that interest in terms of gathering information about our own products and how they're performing in terms of safety, effectiveness, patterns of use, adherence, compliance, etc., right? And some of those aspects are shared with clinicians and patients. Others may be related to other aspects that perhaps decision makers or policymakers may have. Patients may want to see different data or the data analyzed in a different way. So I think that the important thing is that we all have a seat at the table, that we have those type of conversations, and we basically are in agreement in terms of first, having a high quality and robust database, having a standardized way to define certain outcomes and certain measures that we're collecting, and then figure out which analyses are more relevant, for the majority of the stakeholders. And in those where we may have differences in terms of the priorities, that we can discuss them, right? And how that can be driven in different directions. But at the end, I think that we're all pulling in the same direction, which is to benefit patients, to improve the care of patients with severe asthma, and to improve their quality of life.
Yeah. Fabienne, do you have any questions?
It's all about consensus. It's about coming together and getting new information, improve patient care, improve the knowledge that physicians have, that pharmaceutical companies have. So all in all, as I understand it correctly, it's a great initiative to work together, to gain knowledge together, and to grow together, that the care for severe asthma patient is going to be better and better, and they have less burden of disease.
Yeah, well, that's a great summary. I have, of course, always one last question, because, Rafael, you were talking about prioritizing. Let's assume that you are the boss of Sharp and you have unlimited resources. What should you do with unlimited resources? Which question should you address first?
Well, I would basically focus on two aspects. One, sustainability. I think that is a critical issue, how we can maintain a feedback loop of this data. It's not only collecting the data now and answering some questions now, but seeing how answering those questions can continue to improve the care and the outcomes moving forward. And then probably new questions will be showing up, and then we have the opportunity to find new interventions and so on. So I see it as a loop of feedback, of positive feedback. And for that, we need resources. We need to find a way to make it sustainable. That will be number one. So with finite resources, which is more grounded in the current reality, we have to think about what ways we can really create additional ways to bring funds to maintain this fantastic resource. That's one. And number two, I would say that I'm a firm believer in open source. How can we bring this data in an open way for people who may not be experts in statistics or experts in computer science, that can actually use this data to make decisions? If I'm a patient with severe asthma and I have a new treatment that has been recommended to me by my physician, I would like to know how other patients like me have improved with that particular treatment, or if they had any issues with that. And what a great way to do it if I have access to a large data set where I can find thousands of patients just like me with the same characteristics, or perhaps that have similar background, same age, or same gender, same comorbidities, and they have been treated. And I can see what their reaction was and what their outcomes have been, right? That would be, fantastic. The same way, what if I'm a healthcare system and I have, questions about whether or not we're treating our patients with severe asthma in the best possible way, and we're using the best possible treatments for those patients. I can tap into this data and look at patients that fulfill specific criteria and determine, okay, this patient should be treated this way according to the guidelines. Is that the case? If not, how far are we from that? And what kind of programs or what kind of policies can I drive in order to make it happen? Because I'm convinced that the outcomes are better because this data is showing me this. So those two things, sustainability and open access.
Well, that's really a great answer. Rafael, I really would like to thank you for sharing your thoughts, your experience, and your vision, and especially the summary, the sustainability. It's really, it's very important. So thank you very much for this podcast interview. I hope and I think that other people may benefit from this, what you've shared with us. It looked more like a holistic view than just a vision from the pharmaceutical industry. But I think you also said at the beginning there was your private opinion and not only the company vision. Is that right?
Thank you, Jax. Absolutely. That's an important disclosure. I've been sharing my personal thoughts and opinions, and in no way I'm representing the thoughts or opinions of GSK in this conversation.
Thank you very much.
If you'd like to hear more podcasts about the work being done by Sharp from the perspectives of different stakeholders, then visit the Sharp website at europeanlung.org/sharp. You can also find additional information about Sharp project and research programs, as well as how to join the Sharp CRC by visiting the website.